so beautiful. Look at this tree that's fallen over, how huge it was. Imagine when that fell over, that must have been a big bang when that fell down.
Yeah.
When I'm out in nature, camping with family and friends, I love to hear the sounds of the forest, the beach, or whatever other terrain we might be in at the time. In the evenings before I go to sleep though, I often like to listen to music. Any other times that I travel, I definitely want to listen to music. And if you're anything like me and you want your music to go, you probably also want it to sound fantastic wherever you are. If you're anything like me, that means you're after something that's not a crazy size and not a crazy price, but something that's easy to carry and sounds great. It might be for commuting on a bus or a train, flying to different states or even different countries, or maybe it's simpler. Maybe it's just walking from your home office to the couch to kick back and listen to some tunes. I've got 3 very simple but very excellent sounding options for you today that are going to help you to enjoy great sounding music wherever you are. All 3 of these devices are wired or have the option to be wired for maximum sound quality, but beyond that, they all have significant differences. And so I'm going to tell you about each of them and let you decide which one is the best fit for your use and your tastes. Each has its pros and cons, and each sounds a little bit different from the one before it. And so let's begin with the one that is maybe the least compact and possibly the least convenient option, which is not to say that it won't be the best one for you. The HiFi Hip DAC3 is $199 portable DAC and headphone amp. It was sent to me by HiFi as a part of them sponsoring the channel a little while ago, but this video is not sponsored by HiFi and they have no influence over what I'm going to say here. As a portable DAC and headphone amp, the Hip DAC3 requires you to plug in a USB source such as a phone or a computer into the socket on the bottom. And that does mean that you're going to have 2 devices on hand to enjoy music from the Hip DAC3. However, there are a few good reasons to choose that approach. By being a standalone device and prioritizing the things it does, the Hip DAC3 is able to be just a little bit larger than the other products I'm going to talk about here. And as I've already alluded to, it also has a focus on doing just one thing. That allows the Hip DAC3 to deliver the most power of any of the products in this group, and it will output 400 milliwatts into 32 ohm headphones. It also has HiFi's excellent X-Bass bass boost system, and their IE match system to reduce hiss and give you good volume range when you listen to IEMs. Basically, the Hip DAC3 will play very nicely with anything from sensitive IEMs all the way through to fairly power-hungry headphones. It uses a burr brown DAC on the inside to deliver very smooth but detailed sound, and it's an incredibly premium looking and feeling device, everywhere from the casework to the volume dial to the buttons that you're interacting with. On the front panel, there are both 3.5mm unbalanced and 4.4mm balanced connectors, and the good thing about those is they both sound extremely good, so you can use either one without worrying that you're sacrificing sound quality. And of course, being a standalone portable DAC and headphone amp, there's a built-in battery in the Hip DAC3, and that's good for up to 12 hours of playback. What you'll hear for those 12 hours is a very smooth and clean sound, as I've already mentioned, and also a very well-sized soundstage with excellent separation of sounds within it. Vocals and solos have a nice sense of central focus within the soundstage and a good sense of presence and weight as well. And then if you have a leaner sounding headphone or earphone and you want a bit more body and weight to the sound, that's where the X-Bass system can also be a fantastic addition. However, whether the Hip DAC3 is the best sounding choice at its price is a little bit more complicated to say, so we'd better get some more context. A brand new competitor to the Hip DAC3 is the Khadas Tea Pro here. Its claim to fame is this super slim design and the fact that it's MagSafe compatible too. In other words, if you have a compatible phone or phone case, you can take your Tea Pro, attach it to the back of your phone and create one single device to carry. That's just made my phone a high quality portable audio machine. Just like with the Hip DAC3, Khadas did send me the Tea Pro for review, but just like with the Hip DAC3, they have no influence over what I'm going to say here. Despite its compact size, the Tea Pro also has excellent battery life with up to 11 hours of playback. And if you want to extend that, you can even have it charge from your smartphone while you listen. That's a feature that you can toggle on and off if you want to, and so you can either preserve your phone's battery life or extend your listening time. Another thing I like about the T Pro is it can also allow you to take and make phone calls because it has a built-in microphone. It then has a small screen on it to change the settings, as well as a companion app, and that's where you can do things like access the UAC controls to make it compatible with a gaming console if you want to, or you can use the screen or the app to change things like the 7 EQ presets or the filter settings. Although it is worth noting that when you're connecting the T Pro with the USB connection to your phone, the app on my Android smartphone didn't seem to recognize that the T Pro was there. And so it seems that perhaps depending on the applications you're using to play your music, it may prevent the Khadas application from accessing the T Pro. In those situations, you've always got the display on the T Pro itself and the buttons to navigate the menu, but it does mean you can't use the app in those situations. And that leads us to talking about another feature that the T Pro has that the Hip DAC3 doesn't have, which is the ability to connect via Bluetooth. If you don't want to have that little loop of USB cable between the T Pro and your phone, you can just connect it to the back of your phone and pair it up with Bluetooth to create what's still a very high quality audio output from the T Pro. And while we're comparing the T Pro specifically to the Hip DAC3, I have to say that the T Pro feels just as premium and well made as the Hip DAC3. These are both exceptionally nice devices to interact with. Where they start to differ though is in their power output and their sound quality. The T Pro can output only 165 milliwatts into 32 ohms. And I say only in comparison to the 400 milliwatts from the Hip DAC3. In reality though, 165 milliwatts is plenty for probably any headphone you're likely to be using if you're going to be out and about with it. To put that into context, every non-Susvara HiFi-man, every Sennheiser, every ZMF, every Sony, every Meza Audio headphone that I've come across will work just fine from the T Pro. And of course, it's absolutely brilliant with IEMs too. Once again, thankfully, both the 3.5mm and the 4.4mm outputs are excellent, and the 3.5mm is just a little bit smoother and richer sounding than the 4.4mm, but in a really nice way, to the point that I sometimes preferred the 3.5mm from the Khadas T Pro. That's not to say it's definitively better, it's going to depend a lot on the earphones or headphones you connect it to. Overall, I think the T Pro also sounds fantastic, but it does sound different from the Hip DAC3. I'd describe the T Pro as being a much more neutrally tuned device, as opposed to the enjoyable warmth and richness of the Hip DAC3. The T Pro brings a greater sense of clarity and articulation to sounds like guitar strums than the Hip DAC3, and the overall soundstage from the T Pro is a little bit closer to the listener. I wouldn't describe it as closed in or lacking in space. It's just a bit more intimate than the Hip DAC3, which is relatively more expansive sounding. Because of that closer presentation, the T Pro comes across as sounding a bit wider but less deep than the Hip DAC3 does. And I feel like the sense of separation of sounds wasn't quite as strong from the T Pro. On the other hand, I feel like the T Pro probably has the most refined and well-controlled treble of all three devices I'm talking about here. And that doesn't mean it's more rolled off or it's smoothed off. It's all there. It's very clean. It's very detailed. It was just really well controlled. It never got harsh. And so despite being a more neutrally tuned device than the Hip DAC3, the T Pro is never clinical and it's never sterile. It's a very enjoyable sounding device. It's got a lot of clarity, but it's also got a lot of refinement. By comparison, as I've already alluded to, the Hip DAC3 did get just a little bit harsh or grainy at times in the treble, in places that the T Pro didn't. But don't make up your mind just yet between these two. That's because there's one more option to talk about. After all, what if you don't want to be attached to your smartphone? The Hip DAC3, and to a lesser degree if you're happy to use Bluetooth, the T Pro, still require a smartphone as the source device, or something as the source device. What if you want to carry your personal music library in your pocket and not rely on streaming services? And what if you want all of that without having to sacrifice any of the features of the other devices we've just spoken about? That's when you'd buy the brand new Hidizs AP80 Pro Max. Hidizs sent me this one for review and have as much influence over this video as Khadas and HiFi do. That means none at all if you weren't paying attention earlier. The AP80 Pro Max, or AP80 Max from now on, is a tiny, compact, fully featured portable audio player. It's also going to cost less than $200 just like these other two, but I don't know the exact pricing at the time that I've written and recorded this video. On paper, the AP80 Max is a compelling product, but it does have a few challenges that are worth discussing here. Much like the other two we've discussed here, the AP80 Max has pretty good battery life, with up to 10 hours per charge. That's a little bit less than the others, but it's still lots, and the AP80 Max is doing a lot more with that power than either of the other two. I'd expect that one of the major factors in the battery life is the inclusion of a 3-inch full color touchscreen. But then there's also a built-in player for local music files using the HiFi OS system, and you can also stream from Tidal, Qobuz, DLNA sources, and Apple AirPlay. Yes, this tiny player has Wi-Fi capabilities and can stream from internet sources and local network sources. But do be warned that I noticed it struggled a little bit at the more distant corners of my house. If you're hotspotting from your phone or sitting somewhere with a good strong Wi-Fi signal, you'll have no problems at all with reception from the AP80 Pro Max, but don't try to test the limits too much with this one because those limits will come up fairly fast compared to other larger, more powerful devices. And when I say that it will work fine in situations where you've got good Wi-Fi connection, I should probably clarify that a little bit too. With a good Wi-Fi signal, your streaming audio to the AP80 Max will be unhampered by reception issues. However, I think maybe the tiny processor inside the AP80 Max is only just up to the task. If you like to play back large local playlists from the microSD card, or you like to load large playlists from your streaming service of choice, either Qobuz or Tidal in particular, you do need to be prepared for some lengthy wait times when you first start those playlists on the AP80 Max. Once loaded, playback is excellent and sound quality is fantastic. But you might want to adjust the way you build your playlists, or maybe adapt to listening to an album at a time with the AP80 Pro Max. Either that, or start practicing your patience. Just jumping in for a really quick update on that. I've used the AP80 Pro Max a fair bit more since I finished the video. And I think what was going on, because I was using it, it was the first time I'd really used it. I was setting it up. I was testing it all as I was setting up and getting used to it. I think what was happening was the processor was just struggling because I was doing so much at once. And it was probably still building out the database for the music, the local library I had on the micro SD card in the background. There was just a lot going on. And the reason I say that is that as I've used the AP80 Pro Max more and more since finishing the recording of the review and doing some of the B-roll and stuff like that, it's been much, much better. So I'm going to just put a caveat on the patience required and the delays in loading large playlists. That only seems to be an issue when you're first getting used to the unit. So if you buy one of these, and it is a good unit, so if you want to buy one, I wouldn't recommend against that by any stretch. I think it's great, and if it looks like a good fit for you, I do recommend it as a device. But if you do buy one, give it a bit of time to settle before you judge its performance and its responsiveness. And likewise, if you do have one, you've played with it, let us know in the comments, how have you found it? Is it always being responsive, or are there times that you find it gets a little bit laggy between the time you choose to play a playlist and then it actually plays that playlist for you? Because I've loaded huge playlists of over 2,000 files since I made the video, and it actually worked fine. So as in, it might have taken a few seconds to load the playlist and start playing. So do let us know in the comments, but I don't want to scare anybody off based on the laggy stuff that I talked about. A couple of the other little issues that I'm about to talk about, they're still true, and the Wi-Fi is definitely not the most powerful reception, but it's definitely not bad. So don't be scared off from this one. It's a great little product. I think all three in this video are fantastic. Let's get back to the video and I'll tell you about, I think, only one other thing that is maybe something to consider if you're looking at the AP80 Pro Max. Another thing to mention is that I love the inclusion of this little leather case. But the tiny size of the AP80 Pro Max means that accessing the corners of the screen, which you need to with a device this size, gets a bit tricky with the leather around the edges. And so I've generally used the AP80 Max without the case on it, but I've also only used it here in my office and around the house. I would be a little bit nervous about taking this with me without the case for any kind of travel or commuting. No doubt it is something you'd get used to, but it was a slight annoyance for me just trying to navigate with the case on there. And I feel like at this point, I might have put you off the AP80 Max. But if I have, that's a real shame because it's got a lot to offer. What I haven't told you yet is that it supports two-way Bluetooth transmission and receiving, and that means that you could send it a wireless signal from your smartphone, just like you could do with the Khadas Tea Pro. But you could also use the AP80 Max to send a wireless signal to your headphones or your earphones, your wireless headphones or earphones. And then, coming back to wired options again, the AP80 Pro Max also has two-way USB audio, meaning that you can connect it via USB to your smartphone or computer and use it as a portable DAC and headphone amp, just like the Hip DAC3, or you can use it to output USB audio into an external high-quality DAC, making it a perfect transport. And then with the AP80 Max having both 3.5mm and 4.4mm output sockets, you can also drive pretty much any headphone that the Hip DAC3 can drive. It'll output up to 340 milliwatts from the balanced output, so it's only just a fraction behind the Hip DAC3's capabilities. It's also got a more comprehensive range of audio adjustments compared to just the X-Bass on the Hip DAC3, and so as I played more and more with the AP80 Pro Max, I struggled to decide if I loved it or was a little bit disappointed in it. There is a lot to love about this one, and a little bit to loathe. I think it'll mostly come down to how you choose to use a device like this. If you're running large playlists either locally from SD cards or from streaming services, you might struggle with the AP80 Pro Max. But in all other cases I tried with it, it's a wonderfully lovable device, thanks to its size, its versatility, and its sound quality. The sound quality, or I should say the sound character, of the AP80 Pro Max sits right between the Hip DAC3 and the Khadas Tea Pro. It's probably a little bit more similar to the Hip DAC3 in the sense that it's just a little bit richer and smoother, but it's not as rich or smooth as the Hip DAC3. I did some of my listening for this test with the brand new Hidizs Mark 10 IEMs that I won't be doing a full review of, and these are a little brighter in the treble than my general preference. But I do think they're an excellent sounding IEM if you like a bit more treble than I tend to. On top of that, they have 3 different tuning nozzles that you can play with too. And trying all 3 devices with a slightly brighter than I like IEM, like the Mark 10s, proved that both the Hip DAC3 or the AP80 Pro Max were the best choices for them. On the other hand, when I was using warmer headphones or earphones, it was generally the AP80 Pro Max or the Khadas Tea Pro that I would tend to lean towards. And so my point here is that I think the AP80 Pro Max is the most versatile tuning of the 3 devices. To me, the AP80 Pro Max is going to work the best with any type of earphone or headphone you have, while the Hip DAC3 could be a little bit too much for the warmer headphones and earphones, and the Tea Pro might be a little bit too neutral for the clinical or even slightly sterile sounding headphones. Spatially, I found that the AP80 Pro Max also sat somewhere in between the spacious Hip DAC3 and the little bit less spacious Tea Pro, and so the Tea Pro came out with the most clarity and articulation of all 3, whilst the Hip DAC3 came out with the most space and separation of all 3, but the AP80 Pro Max balanced both of those characteristics somewhere in the middle. And so I think you've got a couple of ways that you can consider what the best portable audio solution is for you. Firstly, you can decide how attached or detached you want your phone to be from the whole situation. And then you can think about the exact sound character that you're looking for. You've got the Hip DAC3 that is clearly the smoothest and the warmest, but also the most spacious. Or you've got the Khadas Tea Pro, which is clearly the most resolving and articulate sounding of the 3. And then you've got the AP80 Pro Max, which is a perfect balance between both. You then need to consider whether you want to carry 2 devices, such as the Hip DAC3 and a smartphone, or if you want something that's going to attach securely to your smartphone to make a single portable device. That's the Khadas Tea Pro with your smartphone of choice. Or if you're somebody that doesn't want notifications and distractions popping up when you listen to music, that's where you go in the entirely opposite direction and just go with the AP80 Pro Max, keeping it completely on its own as a dedicated audio device. Ultimately, all 3 devices sound excellent, all 3 devices work very well, and it's going to come down really to how you like to listen to music and what it is that you need. Hopefully I've given you enough information and insight here to help you decide which is the best fit for you. And so I'll put links to all 3 devices in the description down below. I'm not going to recommend one over the other because I think they're all different and each has their own pros and cons. What I will recommend though is a fantastic set of IEMs that you can plug into whichever one of these that you buy, and I've pinned that video here at the end for you to watch next. So good luck deciding on the best portable audio solution for you. Enjoy the video I've pinned here at the end, and for now, thank you to YouTube channel members, channel Patreon members, and to those of you who leave super thanks on videos like this one. And until next time, happy listening, be kind to each other, and I'll see you here again soon on Passion for Sound.